I'm Doug Rutter, and today my guest is Steve Haskins, a legendary El Paso golfer. So, how old were you in 1966?
I was 7.
7.
I was 7
So, how
years
did they
old.
portray you in the movie? Did they
I was
portray you
big.
as 7?
I was the baby getting his ass washed.
You were.
Sink. Yeah, that was me. And somebody told me I met the girl. She came. It was a girl that was playing because she said, "Oh, she was at Coronado Country Club." She said, "I was playing you in the movie." It's like, "Well, nice to meet you." But it was.
What'd you think about the whole movie deal?
I liked it, but the big thing that they missed out on was Herman Carr, and Herman Carr was a high school player in Enid, Oklahoma that my dad was good friends with. He was a black guy, and my dad got all the attention, with everything, and he knew that there was, the black water fountains, but he came to my dad's house. My grandparents were
here.
Yes, and so Herman was my dad ended up being Mr. Oklahoma. He was the best player in the state, and he said Herman Carr was as good or probably as better than I was.
Yeah.
And so he kind of and he knew he wasn't getting the attention he was in the paper, and finally he told Herman, he said, "Hey, I'm going to go to Oklahoma A&M and play for Henry Ibe," because he had a choice of where he wanted to go, and Herman said, "Well, I'm going to join the Army," and that realized at that point, he says, "Wow, you can get killed for your country, but you can't go to an American university."
That's terrible.
So that was kind of his first, where he really locked in on him. That when he became a coach and he could recruit players, he thought about Herman Carr.
Yeah.
And Herman Carr was, and that's what he found in the early '60s. Some great players that nobody wanted, and he wished in the movie that they were trying to portray that, and that Josh Lucas that they didn't think it flowed well, and so, but to me they missed the major point of where his thought process came
Started.
from with Herman Carr.
Wow.
And just a great guy.
Is the story true that your uncle struck out Mickey Mantle?
Yes, that's true.
2 times.
3. I heard
3.
more than that.
Yeah. That's a true
Uncle
story.
Jerry, yes, absolutely. He was a starting running back on Bud Wilkinson's undefeated team as a freshman.
Wow.
He was my grandfather was a good pitch. My dad would have been in the majors if he hadn't broke his elbow. And Jerry was a lefty, and he threw my dad had told me. So anything he told me, I know there was no exaggerations.
Yeah.
But he struck out Mickey Mantle 3 times before he went from Oklahoma up to New York.
Wow.
So pretty.
It's pretty
And
awesome.
then you look at Jerry, my uncle Jerry, the inventions he made with his guns, the Haskins rifle, and stuff that he did
Tell me
for the
about that.
government. My dad said that one of the things that he did, he had and I don't know I don't know anything about guns,
Me
except
neither.
that there was the short cock or whatever, that there was some part of the gun that he invented, and he sold the rights to it for about $20,000 in like 1950.
Wow.
I thought he just gave away millions, but it was 1950 and probably seemed like quite a bit of money.
Yeah.
But his grave in Enid is the shape of a bullet.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. Was your dad a basketball player?
My dad, a basketball player?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he was.
He was all that.
Yeah, well, he was Mr. Oklahoma.
Yeah, I know. Most
Yeah.
people think he's just a coach.
Well, here's a great story. Henry, they're at the '72 Olympics, and that horrible nightmare. But
Were you there or just at home?
No. We were at home. But anyways, he was sitting there with Iba having a beer, and he said, "Mr. Iba, you remember in 1950 when I was a sophomore, and there was an all-college tournament. It was the top 8 teams in the country, in Oklahoma City, I believe." He says, "You remember I made the all-college tournament team in 1950 when I was a sophomore?" And he goes, "Yeah, I remember that." He says, "Do you remember not playing me for the next 3 games?" He says, "Yeah, I remember that." And he goes, "Well, why did you do that?" And he says, "I thought you were getting a little chesty."
Really?
I mean, how can you imagine anybody, like doing something like that and then not playing for the next 3 games because that's for seniors? I mean,
Yeah.
you're talking about like my dad, Bobby Knight, said they were pussycats compared to Henry Iva.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow. That's something.
Yeah.
So your dad didn't go play anywhere else. He just played college ball, and that was it.
He could have played the NBA, or there was no money in it, and they had club teams or 66, Phillips 66. In fact, I think they're the team that beat us in 66. They in an exhibition game.
Yeah.
'Cause
Nolan,
they had good ex-players.
I think it was Nolan that told me the '64 team was the best team.
I think he's right.
Yeah.
Well, we had the best player in the country,
Jim Barnes.
And how my dad always said how he got him. I don't know if I broke the NCAA rules or not, but
How'd he get him?
so his first year, 62, 63, 61, 62 was the first year, and he got right in there to, before the season. So the next year was his first year to recruit. So he started driving to Cameron, Oklahoma, or Cameron Junior College, and he was going after Barnes. And McCarty, I think George McCarty said, "Man, you're gonna be screwed if you don't get this guy, because you're spending all your recruiting budget on this guy." And so he goes up for the last time, and he's got a plan, and it's good. Barnes and his teammates are there, and so he brings a letter of intent. He says, and he told Barnes, he said, "Look, here's the deal. I'm going to shoot you in free throws. If you win, you'll never hear from me again. But if I win," and he laid it on the free throw line, "you sign that." And they laughed. His buddies were laughing. Oh, yeah, this guy thinks he's going to beat the Barnes. He's the best player in the country. I think he made about 19 of 25 or 20 of 25, something like that. I said, "You make all 25? He goes, "No, on the 21st one." He had that thing. He was signing it. He says, "I don't know if I broke an NCAA rule, but he got the best player in the country beating him shooting free throws." Because Barnes didn't realize that my dad 4 or 5 times in his life, in his high school, we're talking about a gym rat, he made 250 in a row 4 or 5 times.
Wow.
Which is,
Wow.
like,
What did he say about the Olympics?
we were just talking about the other day how his deal was that he didn't want Iba. It's like, we won the game, we're out of here. He says, "Let's get out of here." And that was where I think the language barrier and no, he said it was the greatest robbery in sports history.
You think they should pick up their silver medals or leave them?
No, I don't think they should. There's 3 or 4 of them that in their will. Doug Collins, a couple of them. By no means you ever accept the silver medal. What they should do is give them a gold, like they've done in the last 20 years, like
to make a
but it would truly be the right thing, because Dr. Jones, the head of the international basketball at the time, he was a communist, and he was the one that installed to call a timeout. There's a buzzer, and you had to use a buzzer, and he ran out there and he was trying to call timeout, and Dr. Jones came out of the stands and he was trying to call timeout. I was like, "No, but that's the buzzer that you said you had to use." And so, whatever, they got 2 or 3 chances, and
poor Jim Forbes.
And poor Jim Forbes, I think he got hurt on the play, buckled his knee, and Jim Forbes had a 15-year career in the NBA, and same with Gary Brewster if he hadn't slipped a disc in his back. But it was just a shame that but international basketball kind of blossomed from there. It was in a kind of a twisted way. It really helped get international basketball going, but that was a tough one for any of us. Bobby Knight, I was just watching the show where the '76 team where he played the Russians for a reason.
Yeah, he did.
Because he was loved Henry Iva too, and it was Bobby Knight, Mike Krzyzewski, Eddie Sutton. He had 5 or 6 guys that were really
the real deal.
Absolutely, were close to Iva.
So did you grow up in the shadow of basketball, or how was it?
Well, we were all, it was live and die. We were, basketball was our, for our family, and it was everything.
Yeah.
And wins were great and losses were horrible.
Really?
Oh boy, it was just tough. I mean, and my dad never he dealt with it by thinking we were going to lose until the tip off, till the ball went up in the air, and that's how he kind of dealt with not being so up and down and being able to coach 1,200 college games. He was able to kind of discipline in that sense that he was negative about the situation until the ball went up in the air, and it's like it's time to go.
Yeah. Who do you think your dad would say his top 5 players were? Is that a fair question, or who knows?
Well, I asked him who's the best point guard. I was like, it's going to be Archibald or Hardaway. He said Bobby Joe Hill. It kind of surprised me.
Wow.
But it was his leadership that he had, but I got to think, Archibald and Hardaway and Barnes and Latin, and then from there, you get about 3 or 4 of them. You really got to probably go to top 10. Somebody asked me, I was like, it's over the years, and you start thinking, wait a minute, what about the 80s? Forbes, Brewster, Gus Bailey.
Yeah.
Gator
Pauling, remember him?
Gator Pauling, yeah, that's right, and then Fred Reynolds and Quentin Gates and all those guys. There's so many good players from the '80s. It was remarkable, and that was Tim Floyd's doing.
Oh, we had the WAC, right?
Yeah,
WAC coming in here in BYU, and we had those heated games.
Boy,
that was living.
That was the best. Team we loved to hate.
Yeah.
And I still don't understand, like the 85, 86 game where the big fight broke out, how they kept out. And I think it was my dad protecting. He basically told told Luster, don't say it, And I don't know if he really even missed a game.
Yeah.
Because, you got 10 seconds to go, there's 4-point lead, and we're coming down, all of a sudden, the guy's calling the N-word all the way down.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, how would CNN and all these, in this day and age, here's an all-white team that's it's a predominantly black team, calling guy. He'd done that. The reason Lockhart jumped off the bench, because he'd been doing it in California in high school, starting fights. Yeah. He started 8 or 9 of them that year.
Wow.
And he was just, BYU was easy to hate them.
Yeah,
it really was. It was kind of like playing the Russians, really.
You think Coach got his due? Do you think he got the respect he deserved?
From
people that know basketball?
Oh, I think so. The people that know basketball always I'd run into guys like Doc Rivers, and he just said, your dad did a lot for us. He did. They were always so complimentary, and I think the movie probably, because he could care less. It's just like, hey, I coach basketball, and I try to do it right, and do it fair, and do it straight, and I think he knew that he was. Amongst his peers, they all knew.
Yeah.
They knew that it's like It's like Bum Phillips said, he could beat you with hisn, and he can beat you with urine. And he was, but like I said, my view of my dad as a coach was, I thought there wasn't anybody better. Because I watched the talent, and when we had some talent, but his last year, I think we went 17-13 or something like that, playing 2 walk-ons. Yeah. How many guys in the country could do that? Yeah. And that's where Dan Wetzel did his deal, and he said, well, if you move these guys around, who's the best? Because, if you're John Wooden, you always had Secretariat. You're supposed to win. You don't have to win the race, but you look like you should.
Yeah.
But he sure had it from those guys, from Bobby Knights and the guys. If I'd ever run into somebody, along the way, they would always tell me that.
Yeah, Bill Walton goes on and on about Coach.
About Wooden. Yeah.
No, about Coach. About your dad.
Oh, he does.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
He does. I asked Bill to do the podcast, and he said, I only do things that pertain to UCLA history. And I says, well, we're right there in the middle of it. We stopped your little streak.
You're 10 out of 11.
You're welcome.
I'd like to hear that one. That sounded it's good.
Yeah, you're welcome. What was the deal with the whole University of Detroit thing?
They asked him,
how old were you?
10-ish, 9 or 10. It was 68. And I think, you know, he said, well, you know, they, whatever he was making at UTEP, they offered, you know, he said five, you know, it was like 6 times more or whatever. And they're like, no problem, you know, here, and here's a house. And I think it just kind of, you know, he looked at it and said, man, do I really want to go up there? I never really asked him that, except that I'm glad, you know, it's like, I guess instead of playing pro golf, maybe would have tried my hand in hockey or something.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of thinking about, man, that would have been different.
When did you start golfing?
Oh,
And was your dad
right around that time?
Was your dad really scratch?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He was. Dad had the greatest touch, and that was, you know, obviously, I inherited that because that's what was my, you know, why I stayed on tour, because I had, you know, was good around the greens, and my dad was unbelievable, and he was world class pool player.
Yeah, I know.
So. All the touch, if you wanted to play ping pong or you know, whatever it was, he'd figure out how to
shoot free throws.
Or free throws. Forget about it. There was, and you had to bring, in his prime. I mean, you could have brought whoever in, but his.
So you started golfing about 10?
Probably around 10, because I was playing every sport. My brother was playing, so I started going up there. In fact, I remember Brett and I one time at Coronado. It's like, I think we played 63 holes.
Wow.
Kids carrying our clubs. We'd go play a round or two and go to the swimming pool. Maybe we had lunch, and then we get back out there. And we just kept. It wasn't easy. It wasn't that hard to go to sleep that night, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But I was thinking 63 holes.
But when did you know you were good?
I was like, I won the state junior when I was 12 and 13. I was. At 14, I won the men's club championship at El Paso Country Club, and they decided no more juniors.
Really?
Yeah, they kind of embarrassed them, I guess, but probably, you know, in 15, I'd shot 65 everywhere in town.
Wow.
So I was kind of a prodigy, and then, you know.
Did you play college golf?
I played at New Mexico State. I was All-American my senior year. And actually just got into the Aggie Hall of Fame a couple of years ago.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I told them when I accepted the award that it was, the worlds are colliding here. Because I told them a few stories. My dad, you know, taking me up there on a Sunday night, you know, after being home the weekend and doing whatever, and not much being said. And he's probably not, and I think it was during basketball season, so we didn't hardly say anything the whole way up. And he pulled up to the dorm. And he sat there for a second, and he looked at me and says, don't tell anybody I was on this campus. But it was you know.
So from New Mexico State, you turned pro?
I had about 3 or 4 years of trying to figure out what I wanted to do, because it was different back then, you know, like as far as, you know, what was, how, you know, the tour was something, you know, it's like, hey, you're going to go try to qualify for, and I just never really had any direction. After college, I was working at El Paso Country Club, worked at a couple of bars, bartending, and I think it was at some point I think I was working at El Paso Country Club, and I was getting, you know, the members coming, and it's, you know, not an easy job, and I said, you know what, maybe I ought to try playing, and it kind of got me going, and my dad was just unbelievable, you know, as far as being a great influence, and just his support was tremendous.
Yeah.
And I had some bad luck along the way here and there, but I did, you know, made a couple of million playing pro golf, and then ended up getting back out there on the Champions Tour in 2010 and 2011. And it was, golf was always, I always enjoyed playing, but I always tell people, it was a hard way to make an easy living.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think about the live golf?
I love it. I think it's great. And
what do you like about
it? They're
getting paid,
pouring hundreds of millions and maybe billions of dollars into pro golf. And then all of a sudden now the tour's expanding their purses and all that. And I think it's great, because you look at pro golf, there's 100 on a full field. There's 100 during the summer, 156 spots, and that's it. There's no other.
There's no 157.
Well, there's not expanding teams like other sports.
Right.
So you can't expand golf, except you could. I really think or the tour, if they wanted to come back and make the Corn Ferry, like 3 or 4 or 5 million a tournament, because like right now they're just feeding the top players. They're trying to, and what's happening right now, a lot of those guys should send a thank you note to Greg Norman because all their purses have gone up. The LPGA is up.
Tiger
It's
walked away
affecting
from $1
everywhere.
billion to go to the Live.
Yeah, and hey, if you got $1 billion, I guess it's easy
can
to
walk
turn
away.
down $1 billion, But if you got 10 million and somebody offers you 50, you think, hey, 10 million sounds like a lot, but
do
you
what's
start
best.
giving some of these guys, especially the college players, because when I came out of New Mexico State in '81, the top players, or the top college players of the year, Jadon Blake and Bob Tway, took them 3 or 4 years to get their card.
Wow.
So, having said that, you got a guy now. It's like, well, I think I'm going to probably be a great player, but no guarantees out there.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what's happening. Where this influx of money, and I think in a couple of years you're going to see a merge of this.
NBA, ABA.
Well, there are 8 or 10, 12 tournaments, and this concept of team golf where you've got these 4 guys playing. I like it. I think it's good. I think golf always needs a spark. When Tiger came along, he doubled the purses, but this is really, it's got people talking about golf that have never even played golf.
That's true.
They said, "What's Live? What's this all about?" And it's like, well,
Yeah. Tiger way over the top, talent wise, out of everybody you've seen.
The talent level, unbelievable, and then the mental approach, unbelievable. It's a combination of the best of every aspect of the game. Is what it's like. Well, so and so, they got a weakness, or they got a weakness of something. Tiger had none, and and that's where he could win with some things kind of not necessarily being on intact that week, and he's just, if anybody that's played pro golf and look at somebody that won 15 majors, it's just, I mean, you think about if there wasn't a Tiger Woods in the last 25 years, it would be Mickelson at 5 or 6 maybe,
Yeah.
and McIlroy at 4. Those are the guys would be the top guys.
Yeah.
So instead of this guy that's 9 ahead of him, I mean, unbelievable. And really with some bad luck. I mean, also I think he'd have been at 20.
Yeah.
The injury.
You think he should still play?
I just don't put anything past that guy. I just
Really?
said, man, I
he won
want
on a
him
broken
to.
leg.
We all want.
He won on a broken leg, right?
Pretty much. I mean, he was still, he was letting her go, but yeah, and that's this will and determination. But I think we haven't seen the last of him. I really don't. I just, when he came back in 2019, but after this deal with that car accident, it's like he's the only guy that I think would do it, or have the will and the desire to. Because you think, what? I think I've had enough. But Tiger is unbelievable, and now watching Charlie,
Yeah.
son, man, we might be something special along the way down
Kind
the
of
road.
like John Daly and his kid.
And John Daly.
Do you know John?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, what's he like?
He's one of the nicest, kindest guys you'd ever want to meet. He's just a sweetheart. And we had some funny stories back I think it was in '88. We had a PGT. It was before the Corn Ferry, and it was all the same guys. It was Maggart and Daly and Lehman and all. And we were at Coronado, and I won the tournament. It was a pretty cool deal in front of the home crowd. But Daly had talked to my dad, and it was about a month later. We were in Birmingham, and I'd missed the cut, and I was caddying for Rick Todd, Saturday morning, and I saw Daly coming around, and he looked like he's just getting in, and he was pretty lit up, and he goes, "Hey Steve, I was tell you, your dad told me if I ever got my shit together, I'd be a hell of a player." It's like, yeah, I think he can, John. I think he's got it right. And but a couple of years later, he won the PGA, and we had played in a Monday outing like the year before in '90. One of the guys on tour, Sean Passetti, like $300 to show up, 20 of us to play on a Monday, and that's kind of what we were getting back then. And so John won the 91 PGA, and the next year he came back. We came back there, and we all got $1,000. daily paid for all of us.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Whatever his appearance fee, he gave it to us.
Wow.
And that's what a great guy. I mean,
Yeah.
he was unbelievably just
I hope
one of
his
the
kid does
nicest
good.
guy. I do too. And the thing is, just like major, other sports where these guys come in, they're not shook up about things because they watch Dad in the major leagues or the straight, they've been around that, so it's not as a big shock to them.
Yeah. So what do you think about all the stuff in El Paso that's Don Haskins this, Don Haskins that?
Boy, I guarantee he didn't. He was like people. I remember he was signing something, after the movie or something. So people got to be sick of me. No, they're not that, but I think it's great.
Look at the lines for his book signings.
Yeah, he loved El Paso, and I think people in El Paso recognize the fact that, I mean, they loved him, knowing that it's like, hey, this is his spot. He loves El Paso, and he's comfortable here, and I think the school, he would really be tickled by that, and also
He'd be happier. He'd be happier.
He'd be very happy about that, and he'd also say, well, I wasn't a very good student, so I don't know if this is the right thing. But he was all about, his deal also was about kids, around, not having the places to go, to the facilities.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of fun. My son Cameron is he's one of the guys with the Border Youth Athletic Association with Dwayne Abood, and trying to get something done down the road. And I know my dad would.
He was a hell of a pitcher, huh?
He was 27-1 in AAU ball, and just in college, I don't know if he played at Oklahoma State any, but he unreal. And he was at the old school. I think he said this one guy got one time, kind of swung at one way outside, they knocked one out, and he was dancing around the bases. And I think next time the guy came up, he shaved a few whiskers off his chin, so that was the way it was. But he was absolutely, I mean, just the competitive spirit of any sport. Like I said, everything he tried, and I think if he hadn't broke his elbow, he probably would have gone to the majors.
Yeah, but what about your kid Cameron?
And Cameron played some college, some pro ball. He was at New Mexico State also, and all conference his junior year.
They got a good baseball program.
They got a great baseball program. In fact, Nick Gonzalez, I think 2 or 3 years ago, was the 4th pick.
Yep.
And in fact, Ivan Melendez was. They got a testimonial from one of the programs at BYAA is a college prep, and helping get kids started with the whole process, the clearinghouse, helping them find grants and with their baseball and everything. But I think Ivan came through, and
he's going to do well.
Boy, I think how we got the college player of the year right here, and Canutillo, I think.
Why do we have baseball at UTEP? I mean, you got
Title IX.
You got squirrel right. You're right, but you got squirrel right now and get 12 kids and win.
Sure. We got baseball is tough in El Paso.
Very tough.
We don't have any. We got some other sport, like way back when we won. Eastwood won it in basketball.
I was on that team.
Huh?
I was on that team.
That's right.
Yeah.
So
I haven't asked you yet about Bobby Leslie. That's coming up.
Well, I would have thought he would have been a great college coach, except I think he would have had a harder time. He was very shy, kind of. I think
Bobby was aloof.
Yeah.
Shy.
Yeah.
And
but what a coach!
What a coach,
What
bud.
a coach!
What a coach! And we won in '76 at Eastwood, but if you go back and you look at his teams 10 years prior,
they were unbelievable. I remember
Killers.
Coronado playing Frank Keaton. Was and some of those teams that I remember was like, man, Eastwood is good. I mean, and then really think if you could really get a lot of people on this '76 Eastwood state championship team. Terry White was not on that team.
correct.
So the best player they probably ever get in school history is the next year.
Terry.
Yeah. Because I don't think
The next
you
year-
can't put anybody out there with his stats,
No.
college and pros.
The next year we had Mullix,
Their old Molix.
okay, and we had Terry White. So we had the Twin Towers, and we were ranked 7th in the country. All we lost was Bowden, And
Crenshaw?
we still had Tim. Tim was still there. We lost Bowden, Wogemuth, and Shepard.
Right.
But to add Terry White to that group, we thought we were shooing to repeat.
Maybe that was the problem, right?
Yeah, well, we went out and got sloppy the night before.
How far did you guys go, Doug?
So the semis.
The semis?
Yeah. We thought we were going to repeat.
Maybe back to back.
Yeah.
Right.
Terry had a good career here.
Absolutely. He was one of the best rebounders we ever had.
Yeah. What about this JoJo Garcia?
Yeah, where's JoJo?
I talked to him the other day, and he was telling me the whole story of him becoming a rebounding giant. He said that your dad told him to be good at one thing, and he became a good rebounder. And
made a lot of money for him.
And your dad called Jerry West and said, "I've got a guy for you." And he went out and played summer ball with the Lakers. Played for 19, 20 years in Europe. Mm-hmm. That's where Terry ended up playing too.
Right.
That's you make money over there.
Hey, like I said, there's only so many spots. You got 2 rounds. Now you got the G League, and you kind of got a development, but it's still European basketball is taking off. And the money's there too.
Taking off though.
It's a good thing because there's so many good players.
There are. But what about the NBA? I saw the other day, I was watching a show about the Lakers, and Magic got pissed and wanted to trade, so Jerry Buss gave him a 25-year, $25 million contract. 25 years, $25 million. For Magic Johnson.
For Magic
to
stay associated?
Yeah, to stay with the Lakers. And everybody was like taken aback by the money. The same day, LeBron signed for 2 years for $97 million.
They're both worth it. I mean, I'm a Lakers fan. I love,
I am too.
And hopefully they can resolve. It sounds like Beverly's going to.
He's going to help a little bit.
I think he's going to help, and I think, but if you have LeBron and Anthony Davis healthy,
if Anthony Davis is healthy,
if he's healthy, and it just that's big if, I guess, at this stage, because he's just had. But hopefully, that if they have 90% of the year,
Westbrook's got to go.
Westbrook is, I think, it's
he loves
funny
Texas Western, by the way.
Huh?
Lester, he loves Texas Western.
Who does?
What we were just talking about, the Lakers.
Magic?
No. No, the guy that's got to go.
Oh, Westbrook.
Yeah, Westbrook.
Yeah, Westbrook it's what I didn't really fall. I knew he was an outstanding player, and I started watching him with the Lakers and hearing some of the things he would, and it's like, gosh, how can a guy be that athletic and not defend? How can you be that athletic and not be able to really defend? And that's where he could kind of maybe change his whole approach and say, look, I'm going to help the team with certain aspects, but if I become the best defender I can be, he's going to help the Lakers tremendously.
Latin told me the other day that your dad's practices were 2 hours and 45 minutes long, 15 minutes of offense.
He had a lot of fun with those, I'm sure. I remember.
But I mean, defense wins basketball games.
That's exactly right. But college guys, that's trying to get them to do that, and I'm sure you guys with Bobby Leslie, you probably weren't real fond of him during the course of the year.
None of us were. But you know what? The year that we won the state championship, I don't think we ran a sprint after practice. I mean, we just played basketball.
Right. That was enough.
That was enough.
Yeah.
I mean, Crenshaw was unbelievable.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah, he was such a good shooter, and that was the thing. He never quite took off. I mean, he was always a good shooter, even at UTEP. But not like he was probably at Eastwood, where he could just fill it up.
Well, when we were 10 years old, he's like Cameron or somebody just hitting home runs, and they're still going up.
Yeah.
Tim was a good baseball
player. Bowden was such a coach's dream. Because they just played so hard and was so in tune to what.
But he had a hell of a senior year at Eastwood.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, no.
And his college career didn't.
Well, it was at some point, sometimes the some of the reality of it is like, hey, you're playing against Michael Cooper now, against the Lobos, and
they can all do it.
And they can all do it, but Jimbo was he was a great asset for UTEP because he was a good player and just tremendous attitude and leadership, and just a great teammate to have.
Yeah,
I'm sure you know better than I. So.
Yep.
But that's having a high school championship team in El Paso. I hope it happens again, but I'm not sure if
it won't.
I guess
Let me tell you why it won't. Because back then, Crenshaw and his bunch went to East Edgemere, and me and Moeller went to East Point, and we knew from the 5th grade on that we were all going to Eastwood. We went to Eastwood Junior High, and we all went to Eastwood. And in junior high, we had Stan Stout was our PE teacher. He was an Eastwood player, and he took all the basketball players. We went in the gym where the kids went out and did physical education. But today, of the 15 kids that went to Eastwood, 2 would go to Americas, 2 would go to Socorro, 2 to Hanks, 2 to Montwood, and you're never going to get that concentration of talent.
That synergy that you guys got.
I mean, we played with each other since we were like 10 years old. All of us did, against each other, and
that's really important. Like even with whatever rules they have for. I mean, that's a shame that because you break up some kids that are teammates and friends, and for whatever reason they're doing it.
Because Steve, the 15 guys, we could have gone anywhere and played.
Right.
The ones of us that watched, we could have,
I mean, what a shame that would have been that had happened, and you guys.
Yeah.
What?
I mean, our best games were in practice.
Because even like Socorro, I'm sure.
Baseball.
Right. They were. I mean, they brought players from. It's like, well, is that that school district has its open enrollment, right?
Right.
Which is open recruitment in my mind, but that's what it's for. It really is. It's and if kids are going to be happier all doing that, then so be it. And I think that's the way to go.
So in '76, Cager was a referee. Can you basketball? High school basketball.
So he was. I saw Bobby Joe before. He was. We'd play in the, after I got out of college, we were still we thought we could play.
Intramurals?
Yeah, intramural, or not even intramural, just West Side Rec. And Bobby Joe was, he was out there just.
Playing?
No, referee.
Referee.
Yeah. And it's a shame he didn't continue on playing.
Yeah.
But.
He could have, huh?
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, I asked my dad who's the best guard, or, and what clarifying, for what. Hardaway or Archibald, I thought it was going to be Archibald, and he said Bobby Joe Hill, and it kind of shocked me. But he said it was his leadership and his skill level was phenomenal. People didn't get to see him, like his senior year, he dropped out, and it had been, but he should have been in the NBA. I don't think. Well,
what Nate led the league in scoring and assist one year.
72.
Your dad must have said.
He told him. No, Archibald told him the year before. He said what he was going to do. It's like, and he did it. And see, he was the second rounder. Archibald was, which Jimmy Collins was the first rounder at New Mexico State, and which really irked him because he knew he was the Aggies had a great team.
Yeah.
And we couldn't get past him because we had a 6'4" center plus Van, but he was upset about that, and so one of the NBA scouts asked my dad, said, "Well, who in the NBA can Archibald guard?" And he says, and my dad's reply was, "Who in the NBA can guard Archibald?" And apparently nobody.
Right. Right.
And but he was, it was from Hilton White. I saw Nate. In 2013, went up to New York to accept the Joe Lapchick Award, the character award for my dad's honor, and so Nate was up there, and he talked about like when he was
Hilton White was important.
Hilton White, yeah,
he was important.
Boy, he just after a while, sight unseen, he says, "Yeah, I'm sending you this guy." He did, but he used to go up there. Then after a while, he didn't have to. He trusted him so much, knowing that he had a good kid. That was very talented.
Yeah, I talked to Neville about him recently. Neville loves him.
Yeah, I'll bet, man. I don't. He can't. Is he still alive?
Neville?
No, I know. No,
Hilton. I don't know if Hilton is or not.
Yeah.
I don't know if he is or not.
Neville's a great speaker.
Oh my gosh. He talks and he says blah blah blah, and so Coach said to me, "Shan."
Yeah. That was funny when he was running them off. He says, "You can't if you're not going to be able to."
But that pissed me off about the movie, that they have to show him getting beaten up in a bathroom and some stuff like that didn't happen.
Yeah, there were some things. You know, there was a lot of the stuff that he said. Yeah, there was, you know, whatever it was. I mean, he got 100,000 letters of hate mail and just death threats, but you know, you wonder. You know, like some of the places we played, that it just, you know, like the Lobos, they had a couple of black players, and the West Coast was, you know, a lot of those places, or the up north. But boy, in the South, it truly was just a black. You know, there was even hit my dad's coach, who he loved, Mr. Iba, Henry Iba. He didn't have, you know, it was maybe early 70s.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Is Nolan one of the best? 10?
absolutely.
He's in the top?
I got to think so. I mean, well, I'll tell you one thing. Nolan Richardson is probably the top 5 best athletes ever to come out of El Paso.
Played it all.
You could have probably played pro baseball, you know, basketball. The same thing. I think if you had the chance, or somebody, you know, like the NBA, especially in this day and age where you need great defenders and things like that. You know, Nolan, I mean, he was a skilled athlete in golf. He could play golf.
Yeah.
A damn good golfer. And then baseball, he was apparently he was as good as they get.
Yeah.
So he was, you know, we had some great athletes come from here.
Yeah.
We really
You
did.
wish he would have ever coached here?
I did. I was hoping he would get the job, but I guess he was asking too much or something. I can't remember what happened, but I was like, hey, let's bring Nolan in. Let's bring him in 40 minutes of hell in here.
40 minutes of hell for life. Right?
Yeah, that's right. And I just wish things had he hadn't, you know, gotten in the middle of it with the Arkansas.
Yeah.
It
was a loser from day one.
Yeah, he wanted
He
to get
couldn't
his.
win.
He wanted it. Well, he wanted to make his point. And it's like, the point is like, Nolan, you did it with your actions.
Mm-hmm.
You did what you're wanting. You know, hey, there's not a lot of other black guys here, but you came in and made this happen.
Yeah.
And it was, boy, he could have won. He would have won more. He
Yeah.
almost won 2, and he got 1, but he almost had 2.
What was the deal with Bobby Leslie and Coach? Do you know?
With I don't know what. I know there were some issues or what. Well, Bobby. Oh, you mean as far? I don't know. I was thinking of Divler or something, but
No,
Bobby Leslie.
yeah.
I don't know if they're, you know. I mean, my dad recruited him from
Dumas.
from Dumas. I mean,
My story I received is Bobby didn't even have shoes.
yeah, it's just an old dirty T-shirt, and I don't know. I don't know.
He could shoot the eyes out of it.
That's why my dad got him. But I didn't know if he was. I don't know if Bobby felt slighted by him. I'm not sure.
Because Bobby played, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
he played. I mean, anybody that played for him, if they hated him for that period of time, I totally understand.
Yeah.
You know, it was like, nobody's going to like play. You know, it's like he said, somebody asked him, how do you treat the blacks and the whites? And it's like, I treat them the same. Bad.
So how does your dad become friends with Beto?
I think where they met. Beto was just coming into it, was just a major UTEP fan, and he was told me a couple of times if somebody would disrespect my dad, he'd get right in there. He was ready to brawl, and he was just a huge fan. I think it's probably just having a beer at
Rosa's?
at Rosa's or Graham's or wherever, whatever.
So I mean, they end up being daily buddies.
And Beto was, he really took care of my dad, and he appreciated it. And if we weren't there, but Beto was just like, he loved being there for him. And I think even there was a 66 line that Beto
he did that.
Did some stuff with that. But he's just he's a great friend, and he was a huge fan. I think he was thrilled to be able to be great friends with my dad, and they were great friends.
Yeah, they were. Well, that's about it. We could still talk.
Oh yeah, there's other ones. It was like why, like my mom. I had no idea when they were. She was Oklahoma they were Oklahoma State. My dad met my mom. My mom was dating T. Boone Pickens.
Really? Wow.
And we're like, what? He's like, Mom, really? And it's like, God. It's like, really? I could have had big ears and been worth $500 million. So my dad, it was the evening with Don Haskins, and he was feeling terrible. He was just having those shots of tequila because he was in pain.
Yeah.
And so we were at the house. We got with him on the tequila, and he was feeling pretty good. And he says, "Oh yeah." So he starts telling the story. He's like, "Oh yeah, one night on campus, it's like real, dark. It was at night, and this is like, and he's sitting here and he's looking at my mom's little hot lips back there, smooching with Booney in their car up here. And it took about 5 minutes to tell the story, and he says, and I got up and I bumped him. Chipped both their teeth. It was just, obviously BS, but it was. But who's Robert Brown, who owned, Budweiser?
Mm-hmm.
They were at some, all the jefes, and he was talking to T. Boone. He asked about my mom. He's like, "How's Mary doing?"
Yeah.
Yeah. So they.
Boy, Boone made it all, didn't he?
Boy, he did. He got into the into the windmills. I was like,
yeah. Don't need to.
Yeah, you don't need to. Why don't you just keep putting drilling into the ground?
Yeah. What are you doing these days?
I'm in the PEO business, Professional Employment Organization. It
Where?
used to be.
Are you at TNT?
No, I used to.
You used to be.
Yeah, I got roughed up over there. I did really well, and then they decided, I don't know, at some point they had some 2010 that they were a contract that needed to be signed by and they wanted to raise everybody's rates, and I was like, it was like 1.5 on these guys. It's gonna be like 200,000 or whatever, and so they stopped paying me, and we went through this arbitration. I got out of it and had to go through a 2-year non-compete, but I got a couple of companies, one from Dallas, it's called LL Roberts, and another one called American One Source out of Waco. Really good companies, good health care, good. It's kind of a different, and I use S&S, who's Terry Karsten, retired, but his broke away from Thad, and they had a nice version of that, only cheaper, and so I like it. I think it's good because companies, you have the payroll, you have all that, you have the HR department, which is a lot of times can be a real pickle, to try to control that, and then with these other two companies from Dallas and Waco have great healthcare plans. In fact, one of them merged with this company. We got like almost 1 million employees, so we have tremendous healthcare, 401k. A company can just plug into it without having to, no fiduciary, no fees or audits. And like Beto told me, he says, "Your dad's the only guy that's in the Hall of Fame twice."
That's right.
I was like, "You're right." I didn't even think about it.
Did you go? Did you when your dad
Oh,
got? Was it something else?
Oh boy, it was
surreal to be around all those guys.
Yeah, and I mean, because my dad he could downplay stuff to, say, "Oh, yeah, whatever," But I know it meant a lot to him, because like when he had his heart surgery in '90, he had the heart surgery, and he got his depression and all that and I remember he asked, I didn't think it meant, he goes, "Did Cheating Jerry get in?" Tarkanian. He said, "No, he didn't." So this is like,
how come your dad didn't go to the White House?
He was in the hospital.
Really?
And in fact, Bush got up there. We're in the movie theater in the White House, and he it's like, "Hey, Coach," blah blah, and then all of a sudden you see Bush sitting there for a minute. Dad's telling him, "Thank you a lot, Mr. President," yada yada, whatever he was saying to him.
Yeah.
But if he wasn't in the hospital, he's like, "God, I'm glad." He didn't want to do. It was just a big pain in the ass to him. Go have to fly up there and do all that, and it was a great thing. But it really was amazing how things like that just did not
do it.
It's kind of like I said, Bobby Leslie. They're both shy country boys.
Bobby went to nothing. Okay, we won in '76. He didn't. The governor had us down for our 20th or something. They named the gym after him. He didn't even show up.
He was worse than my dad.
Didn't even come to the ceremony.
He was. I'd see him out at you know.
Bobby could golf.
Oh yeah, I saw him out and when at his funeral, you know, when we were at the Eastwood at the football, and he says the only two people I deserve to be in the Hall of Fame are Lee Trevino and Nolan Richardson or something. I was like, oh, it's like I'm glad you're telling that in front of the Haskins family here. It's like, maybe the old man might have,
Yeah.
But it was like that's when I heard that I was like, oh, because there was one guy I think on your team, Brent was my brother said that he would. Like, oh yeah, that my dad didn't play anybody or whatever. I was like,
on our team?
Yeah, it was some guy. I don't know who it was.
The only guy, Crenshaw, Bowden, Molix.
None of those guys. Hispanic name, maybe.
Ernie Colorado.
I can't remember. I remember Brent just saying that the guy was like, oh yeah, he didn't think much of my dad. That we played an easy schedule.
Oh yeah.
It's like, well, it's like we played the whoever and
those games in the '80s.
Huh?
Those games in the '80s.
Yeah.
The bigger deal for us winning state, you get all the accolades, but we beat Hobbs and Hobbs.
I went up there. My son played at Franklin for a couple of years, and I was like, wow.
Yeah,
well, that's the real deal.
They came in and took the traveling trophy from us, Ralph Tasker, at the Ralph
Tasker
Arena and on Ralph Tasker Boulevard.
How many did they score against you guys?
We won.
Mm. You beat them in Hobbs.
We won the holiday tournament. They came and took the trophy from us. They didn't let us stay. It's a traveling trophy. They said, you're not going to be invited back. The trophy.
Oh, you guys should. I would have yanked it, and that would have been a great little old.
Yeah, but that was a bigger deal than winning state.
Because of the heat. You guys had 5,000 in there.
Yeah,
or however many they could fit into that thing.
And it's 7 versus 5.
Yeah. Oh, the referees.
Yeah, you bet. You bet. And then they come down here to Eastwood to play, and we beat them by 30 or something.
Did you really?
I just can't.
It's like, yeah. Why don't you leave whatever?
But basketball. That's terrible. Somebody would say we don't play anybody. We've had until real recently.
He was. I don't know. He was a bitter. Brent just this guy. He said because he was from the Eastwood, not maybe around that area, but he was, like, oh yeah. It's like, oh yeah. Well, it's like how about the WAC conference and
I'll go,
and play Indiana or if somebody would play us.
The year after we won, your dad came out and told all the seniors at Eastwood, you guys have a walk on if you want it. If you could make the team, great. You're welcome to come. And a few of us went.
Yeah.
And it wasn't what we thought it was.
You're walking into
I mean, like you said, when you get there, everybody could do it, man. Everybody and do it all.
Yeah, and it's like, how did we? Some of them you're like, where'd this guy come from?
Yeah, and
like,
what am I doing here?
and then there's how many Hall of Fame or how many All NBA players never made it out of Chicago?
Yeah,
never made it out of that.
Yeah,
and that's where Russ Bradford was.
I didn't know about all that until here in the last week, and Russ told me his whole story. It was Chicago. It was unbelievable.
Oh, unreal. And he did a book when I was up in New Mexico State for the Hall of Fame thing, and in 89-90 between Las Cruces and here, Randy Brown, there was 11 guys from Chicago on the UTEP and New Mexico State team.
Yeah.
So we're both doing the same, the same deal. I mean, Chicago's just.
You mentioned Johnny Melvin. What a story, huh?
I know. I hope he's doing okay. I've seen him a couple of times. Who was it? The guy up at UTEP, or he kind of helping him out, trying to get him he got him a job close by. And I know he's still having some issues.
Yeah, he does.
But which is and wish that he could have totally get cleared up with everything. Did he ever go over? Did Johnny go overseas?
I don't think he did.
Never.
I don't think he ever made the money.
Yeah. What a tough guy.
But when Terry White came down here, he came from New York and he lived at Cager's house on Chinaberry on the east side of town. And one night, me and another teammate named Jerry Crampin and Terry White were there drinking and carrying on. Cager had enough, and he chased us out with a rifle. And that's when Lindsay Holt adopted Terry White.
Is that when he? Yeah.
That's like a week later.
That's what I think. I think that was the question. So, hey, do you think you got? I asked my dad, do you think you got a good chance to get Terry White. And I said, well, yeah, considering my best friend just adopted him.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty good.
Your dad close to Lindsay?
Oh, they're best of friends.
Were they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was, I saw Terry. He was here, I guess for Lindsay's,
Yeah.
a handful of years ago, and it seemed like he was doing really well.
He was in the grocery store business, and I talked to him a week or so ago. He didn't want to do this deal for some reason, but anyway, he has a little Debbie route, like those little Debbie snack cakes,
Right.
and he goes to an 8-mile radius or whatever, and
In
New York.
In New York.
Yeah, and that's all he does.
He was a sharp guy. I remember, like, when he was at Lindsay's place, doing bidding and stuff.
Terry's a hustler.
Huh?
Hustler.
He's a hustler. Huh?
Yeah, he could hustle.
Yeah. And he was, but I mean, for intelligent guy.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah, he's a good.
Yeah, we're still close. He was a good guy and a good teammate.
Yeah.
And he got to go over to Europe and make a little bit of money.
Yeah, he what a 10-year run, maybe 8 or 10 years.
Yeah, but JoJo was over there for 19.
Wow, what a tough guy.
Yeah.
What about Sylvia, his mom?
Yeah.
In Vegas.
Vegas, that showgirl, huh?
Yeah, we got a. Well, she ran the Latin American entertainment, or like there was a glove at our house, the No Mas glove from Durant, Roberto
Really?
Duran. Yeah, blood on it and everything.
Really?
Yeah, so she dealt with the Latin American talent, or entertainment, and including boxers, I guess.
What happened to the restaurant thing? You guys tried it?
Oh yeah, I was so stupid. I these guys from Morez,
You had some nice memorabilia.
Yeah.
I was worried about it.
Yeah, I know it. That's why I just on a Sunday just. Because this guy, hey, he tell me, okay, we're going to do this. And it's like, sports bar? Is it a restaurant? Or what is it? And then Haskins' house, I was like, it's like my across the street neighbor. He's like, sound like a rehab place. And so I go in there a couple of times, and there was people in there, and they it was just never. And then, I said, oh, here's a Topicana steak for $21. I was like, God. They were in Juarez at a place called Montana Steakhouse, I believe, which is a real nice place over there. It was, upper scale. They didn't understand that there wasn't the money in El Paso that there is for their affluent. Is very affluent compared to ours.
I'm surprised that Corlito's place is done as well as it has.
Oh, they're really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, they. But these guys, they went in there and tried to. People didn't know. It's like, well, is it a sports bar? And then the place where we really should. Bob Wingo told me, and I agree with him. There was in the parking garage on the Cincinnati side. There's a little corner back there, about 3,000 or 4,000 square feet. They're a perfect spot for the Bears Den.
Yeah. Well, I was one of the guys that was involved in that. We had a rendering done and all that. We were going to be on the corner in Cincinnati and Mesa. It was me, the guy from the Three-Legged Monkey.
Oh, Mike.
Mike Armstrong. Beto was involved. And I don't remember who the fourth one was. We had a beautiful rendering done. We had it all set up.
Well, he does the Spirit of 66.
Yeah.
I told him, yeah, that's fine.
Pat Riley was going to come and do the grand opening and all that.
For the
Bears Den. It was going to be on the corner of Cincinnati and Mesa.
Yeah, and then somebody got pissed off about it because Mike.
Well, they started picking on Mike.
Well, I mean, the city, and I was like, I don't care, and it was like, because my mom or Brent, they're like, oh, we don't want to step into this, and I told Mike, I said, look, if they wouldn't for that, I would say, screw it, do your deal.
Yeah,
and
we were going to park everybody's car. They were going to pull up in front and get out, and we'd go park the car in the parking garage. That was our solution.
It was like $9,000, Doug, for the.
Yeah.
God, I couldn't believe that's
expensive.
And then I saw the one, and then it's kind of like the 2,900.
Yeah.
And then I found out, because one of my good friends, Frank James, he kind of helped Mark Hines on some deals, and he got in the middle of it, and I was like, Frank said that his rent at the 2,900 was $20,000 a month.
Jesus, how do you make it?
Yeah, you don't. Yeah. I mean, he did it in Tanny Bird. For about 3.5 years, they got that, and nobody's been in there since. I said, well, he got enough money but it's like not for that price.
Yeah,
maybe 8 or because $9,000 for the for where you guys were talking about. I thought that was outrageous. $6,000 would have been a good price, huh?
Yeah. Coach was across the street, right? At one time.
Hmm?
Did Dad had a restaurant?
Oh yeah. Well, it started off as the Black Eyed Pea,
Right.
and it was great. They loved it, and I think where they say Paul Connington, he said that they had a perfect situation because they had the rights to the region, so they could have sold that. And then Lindsay, no, he didn't want to sell the deal, and ended up, I think the rent there got real high, but their screw up, he said, was that they should have sold the rights to the region. We could have made a bunch of money.
Yeah.
But it was like my dad never made it. Every deal he ever tried was from S.M. Davis's let us here. You got 25,000. We can make $250,000, Coach, if the weather's right. And, we're out driving around all the time. It's like, well, checking it out.
What else do you remember him getting involved in?
There was a few other. There was one of them that was I ended up making money. It was this biotech. The guy that was the superintendent at Coronado at the time, and he was all over Larry Runyon. He was the finest super. The Greens. I mean, just the guy was brilliant. How he made it happen, and he had this thing called a bioject, or it was like say there was root rot in an avocado tree, and but you couldn't mass or send it out there, so they figured out a way through the system to get that out there, and it was going up, and I just like at the time I said, man, I need the money, and I made some good money, and then my Brent and oh man, this thing is going up to 40, and then a couple of the board of directors pulled a fast one as usual, and
Yeah.
so my dad was, I mean, it was every deal. He was bad luck. Oh, here was the best one. It was like August of 2001, or maybe whatever. And my dad said, "You got $10,000?" Like, yeah. I was like, I don't want to get with the black cloud here. And he said, Harry, we can make $4,000 or $5,000 in a short period of time with this lodging. So they were a hotel conglomerate. August of 2001.
Yeah.
So September of 2001, it wasn't a very good.
Oops.
But I realized that, it's like I got 3 years of being able to write off $3,000 a year for 3 years, so I got some use out of it. But that's
So your dad played cards with Lee Chagra, huh?
But anyways,
I thought it was great that Beto made the 66 line ties clip-ons.
yeah, that's right.
That was good.
Yeah, that was perfect. Yeah, it was like, I'll let you go now, Doug. But the Henry Ives funeral in '94, I believe it was, and so Bobby Knight and Krzyzewski and everybody, and Krzyzewski comes up to my dad. He's like, he shakes hands. Like, how do you deal with BYU? It's like, what are you talking about? He says, that's the dirtiest team I've ever played against. And my dad said, shit, you're lucky. This is one of the cleanest ones they've had in a long time. But, so they all, it's kind of fun to hear those guys when they get together. Or Bobby Knight. I mean, he was, I was at the airport in '01, going to the finals in Palm Springs, and Knight my dad just picked him up, because my dad was retired, but Knight's coming in for Tech to play the minors, and he was, they're going to go drive around, and my dad's talking. He's like, all right, blah blah blah. We're gonna, get the, talk to him every day. But it's hold on a second, somebody wants to talk to you. It's like, Steve, Bobby Knight here. This is my advice to you. This qualifying school, you don't listen to a goddamn thing your old man said. That's my advice. I'm like, oh, shut up, goddamn it. Because I always thought when they played in '72 and we beat them, and Frank Keaton just went nuts. And that he got kicked out, and I remember he stopped by, and it was like, and I thought, and I was 14 years old, so I was old enough to think, hey, what, he's John, I'm pretty good, and he's like, thanks for inviting me to this bullshit tournament or whatever, and all that. This for a long time. I said, well, Dad, what Night kind of pissed at you whenever he came? He goes, what are you talking about? It's like, remember, he came by the bench, and he jawed you pretty good. Like, I figured it was like, yeah, thanks for inviting me to this BS and getting screwed down here. And he says, no. He says, if you don't get a couple of technicals and get kicked out of here and go have a beer with me, you're a fucking pussy. That's what he said. It's like, oh, okay.
See you later, man. Thanks for coming by.
Thanks a lot. I enjoyed it very much.